Welcome back to Man Plus Magic. Today we're going to go over a deck with Soul Advocate Eternal. Now technically this isn't legal for anybody except the one person that got this card, but I think we should all be able to proxy this, right? It's a really cool commander. Has legendary partner, so you can have two commanders if this is one of them, and the other one is promoted to legendary, so you can pick any other creature other than just legendaries, which is really cool. It's got flying and vigilance. It's a 4/4, and whenever you attack or block with both Soul Advocate Eternal and its partner, you support 4 and investigate 4 times. So the clue set just came out, so we're going to investigate a ton. And the partner I've chosen for it is Merchant of Truth. It's a 2/5 flying angel detective. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, investigate, and then your clues have Exalted. So it's going to get nuts. So you're just going to be able to just swing in with crazy amounts of damage with a single creature if you want. Wow, it's insane. And the majority of the cards in this deck investigate, so you'll have clues out the wazoo. So anyway, it's going to be a good time. Okay, we've got some Enter the Battlefield effects here that we can start with. We've got Novice Inspector and Thraben Inspector. Both of them are the exact same. They enter and create a clue token. Then we have Briarbridge Tracker, which does the same, but this time it's got vigilance, and as long as you control a token, it gets +2/+0. Then we have Wave Sifter. When it enters, you investigate twice, and you can evoke it out for just 2 mana. Persuasive Interrogators. This one's nuts. When it enters the battlefield, you investigate, and whenever you sacrifice a clue, target opponent gets 2 poison counters. Okay, this could be really good in the deck once you get it out. Then there's Martha Jones. When she enters, you investigate. And whenever you sacrifice a clue, Martha Jones and up to 1 other target creature can't be blocked this turn. Ezrim, Agency Chief, has flying and it's an Archon. And when it enters, you investigate twice. And then you can pay 1 and sacrifice an artifact. And he gains your choice of Vigilance, Lifelink, or Hexproof until end of turn. And you'll have plenty of clues to be able to do that. Then there's Ethereal Investigator, which somehow isn't a detective. I don't understand. Anyway, when it enters the battlefield, you investigate X times, where X is the number of opponents you have, and then whenever you draw your second card each turn, you create a 1/1 white spirit with flying, and you'll have plenty of clues once again to just draw as many cards as you want, as long as you've got mana, I guess, but we'll go over that later. Lastly, there's Alquist Proft, of course. He's a Master Sleuth. 3/3 vigilance. Whenever he enters the battlefield, you investigate. Then you can pay some amount of mana, sacrifice a clue, and then draw X and gain X. Next section is basically just whenever you effects, or whenever something happens effects, the triggered abilities. Erdwall Illuminator is a spirit with flying, and whenever you investigate for the first time each turn, investigate an additional time. This does trigger on opponents' turns as well. Angelic Sleuth and Sally Sparrow are kind of similar. Angelic Sleuth says whenever another permanent you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, investigate, and remember Soul supports 4, which puts 4 +1/+1 counters amongst your creatures. And Sally Sparrow says you can cast those creature spells as though they had flash, which is awesome. And whenever 1 or more creatures you control leave the battlefield, you investigate, but it only triggers once each turn. So whenever something leaves, you're gonna do stuff with these. Bygone Bishop. Spirit Cleric. Whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 3 or less, you investigate. So that's pretty awesome. Eloise, Nephalia Sleuth, and Homicide Investigator both have to deal with creatures dying. So whenever another creature you control dies, investigate. Nice. And whenever you sacrifice a token, Surveil 1 helps you move the deck along even more. And Homicide Investigator says whenever 1 or more non-token creatures you control dies, you investigate. Triggers only once each turn. So you're going to want things to die and investigate, or I guess even if you don't want them to die, you're going to investigate anyway. So there you go. Graf Mole and Lazev, Wearer of Faces. Okay, these two didn't really match, but both of them say whenever you sacrifice a clue, and Graf Mole says that whenever you sacrifice a clue, you gain 3 life. So that's gonna go off. And then whenever Lazev attacks, exile target card from a graveyard, then investigate. And whenever you sacrifice a clue, you can have Lazev become a copy of a creature card exiled with it until end of turn. Then we have Lonus Genetics Expert, Ravenous Squirrel, and Tireless Tracker. They put +1/+1 counters on themselves or other creatures or whatever. Lonus has evolved, and whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on Lonus, investigate that many times. And whenever you sack a clue, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature you control. Ravenous Squirrel says whenever you sack an artifact or creature, put a +1/+1 counter on it. That'll get bigger and bigger, and you can sacrifice a clue to its ability as well to gain a life and draw a card. Tireless Tracker has landfall, and whenever land enters under your control, you investigate, and then whenever you sacrifice a clue, you put a +1/+1 counter on itself. Forensic Gadgeteer says whenever you cast an artifact spell, you investigate. There's not very many artifacts in the deck, so that's not going to trigger a lot, but It makes it so all your clues cost 1 less to activate. You can't reduce it less to 1, but hey, if you've got your clues out, sacking them for 1 mana instead of 2 is night and day difference. Morska, Undersea Sleuth, the face commander for that 1 commander deck. You have no maximum hand size, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you investigate. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. And then we have Briarbridge Patrol. Whenever she deals damage to 1 or more creatures, investigate. And at the beginning of each end step, if you sacrificed 3 or more clues this turn, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Wow, that's really cool. Then you've got Astrid Path, which says when she enters, you credit food, which is the only food in the deck. But whenever you sacrifice a clue or a food, she explores. That can come in handy. Then there's Inquisitor Greyfax, of course, from the Warhammer decks. 3/3 Vigilance. Other creatures you control get +1/+0 in Vigilance. Then you can pay 1 and tap her to tap a creature an opponent controls, and then you investigate. Sharp-Eyed Rookie is 2/2 Vigilance. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under control. Okay, it's basically, she's got Evolve, basically. And then you also investigate on top of that, so they didn't say evolve, but it's basically that plus you investigate. Lastly, for this section, we've got Teysa Opulent Oligarch, 2/3 Death Touch. At the beginning of your end step, investigate for each opponent who lost life this turn. And whenever a clue you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you create a 1/1 Spirit. It only triggers once each turn, but hey, extra bodies is not bad. Alright, the next section is all about keeping the deck running. So first off, we've got Kellen, Inquisitive Prodigy. He's got the Tale of the Suspect sorcery adventure that lets you investigate, and then you can play an additional land this turn. And then he's got Flying Vigilance, and whenever it attacks, you can destroy up to 1 target artifact. And if that was one of the clues that we had, we draw a card. So, I don't know, that's kind of neat. Lavinia, Foil to Conspiracy, is another one that's really cool. He's got Vigilance, and whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you investigate. And then you can tap her to add colorless, activate only during an opponent's turn, but you can use that to activate your clues or whatever, or what have you. Senator Peacock, Human Advisor. Artifacts you control are clues in addition to their other types and have the clue thing to sacrifice it to draw a card. But once again, this is not as needed because there's only 4 artifacts in the deck basically that aren't clues. But whenever you sacrifice a clue, target creature can't be blocked this turn. You can use that on our partner commanders. Armed with Proof says whenever it enters the battlefield, you investigate twice. And clues you control are equipments in addition to their other types. And that's just crazy value right there. Search the Premises. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, investigate. So it just kind of protects, I don't know, you and however you want to do it. Ongoing Investigation. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, investigate. And you can pay 1 and a green to exile a creature from your graveyard to investigate. And you gain 2 life. And even if our creatures don't deal combat damage, you can play Ulvenwald Mysteries. So whenever a non-token creature you control dies, investigate. And whenever you sack a clue, you create a 1/1 human soldier. And lastly, to keep the deck going, we've got Mondrak Glory Dominus. This could be switched basically with any token doubler, but I like this one because you can sacrifice 2 other artifacts to give it indestructible. So that's pretty cool. I like Mondrak a lot, and just creating twice as many clues is just... that can't be overlooked. Now we have some fun tricks that we can do to just baffle opponents and such. Lonus Cryptozoologist says whenever another non-token creature enters under your control, investigate. Then you can tap it and sacrifice X clues and then steal cards from your opponent's library, or I guess non-land permanents from their library, onto the battlefield under your control. So that's... it's a little random, but hey, that's fun. Tamio's Journal, this one's awesome. At the beginning of your upkeep, investigate. And then you can tap it and sack 3 clues. Search to just tutor a card to your hand. You don't even have to reveal it. I've always liked this card because it's the colorless black tutor card that can happen a lot. And we got this yucky Time Sieve here. You can sacrifice 5 artifacts to take an extra turn after this one. So if you just got a ton of investigate triggers, you're just taking a bunch of extra turns. I don't know, I just thought it was really fun to put this in here. Fangren Marauder, of course. In any treasure deck or clue deck or food deck, this is prime right here. Whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may gain 5 life. How many clues were we going to sack during this game? 100? That's like 500 life. Come on, guys. This is really cool. I mean, that's an over exaggeration, but there's gonna be so many. Even if you sacrifice 5 clues while this is out, you're gonna gain 25 life. That's so cool. All right, and then we got Follow the Bodies. This one's busted too. It's got Gravestorm, and then it investigates. Gravestorm is basically Storm, except instead of spells cast, it's things go into the graveyard, and then you investigate that many times, or like you investigate the once for this, and then it Gravestorms, and then you can, however many things with the graveyard, you create that more clues. It's so cool. Okay, now we got some combat bonuses for our creatures that also investigate. Survive the night. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains indestructible until end of turn. That's kind of nice for our commander. And Confront the Unknown investigates, then target creature gets +1/+1 for each clue we control. That could be a game winner right there. Curious Inquiry. Look at this guy's mustache. It's awesome. It's an aura. It says enchanted creature gets 1/1 and has, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, investigate. So even more things. And then we've got Drag the Canal. I guess this one's kind of like an end of combat thing. You can create a 2/2 detective, and if a creature died this turn, you gain 2, surveil 2, then investigate. We've got Thajarian Witness. Hopefully I said that right. It's a 0/4 with flash, and whenever another non-token creature dies, if it was attacking or blocking alone, exile it and investigate. And remember, our secondary commander gives all our clues exalted, so it kind of incentivizes us to attack alone sometimes, and then this can help out with that. Now we got some removal stuff, I guess. I mean, maybe not the best quote-unquote removal spells, but I don't know, they work. Like the first one, Foul Play. Destroy target creature with power 2 or less, then investigate. 2 or less, that's not very good, right? But the investigate on top of that, I feel like kind of makes it worth it. Root Out, destroy target artifact or enchantment, and then investigate. Again, this is not going to be your top of the line removal spell for this kind of stuff, but the investigate on top of it, the more stuff we can have that does that it's just value. Humble the Brute, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, and then investigate, of course. Power Stone Fracture, this one's actually pretty good. Is an additional cost to cast a spell, sack an artifact or creature. We can sacrifice a clue to destroy a target creature or planeswalker. And we can hold for questioning. You enchant a creature or a planeswalker again, and then when it enters battlefield, you tap that permanent and investigate. And then it doesn't untap during its controller's untap step, and its activated abilities can't be activated. So you can shut down somebody's planeswalker, you can shut down, I don't know, somebody's creature. Is really cool. Out Cold. This can't be countered. There's a lot of there's starting to be a lot of can't be countered spells in Pauper, which is interesting. But this one lets you tap up to 2 target creatures and put stun counters on each of them, and then you investigate. It's not strict removal, but it can kind of keep things at bay for a little bit. Press for Answers, kind of the same. You tap a creature and then it freezes for a turn, and you investigate. Confirm Suspicions, counters a spell. It's an expensive counter spell, but you also investigate 3 times, which again, I don't have to remind you, is pretty good in the deck. And lastly, if we need a board wipe, we've got No Witnesses. Each player controls the most creatures, investigates, then destroy all creatures. Hopefully we control the most creatures so we can just investigate some more. Next section, we've got some protection for our things. We've got Lazotep Plating. It amasses 1, which whatever, but us and our permanents we control gain hexproof until end of turn. That's nice because we can enchant or makes our clues hexproof. I don't know why anybody would destroy a clue, but I don't know, maybe it could be advantageous at some point. Then we got Heroic Intervention. Again, permanents we control gain hexproof, but it also gives them indestructible as well for the turn. And then we have Lich Knight's Conquest. This one's really cool. Sacrifice any number of artifacts, enchantments, and or tokens, and then return that many creature cards from our graveyard to the battlefield. So even if we do board wipe, or even if we get board wiped, we can sacrifice all our clues and bring back that many cards, or however many we want. And then we're just right back to where our opponents don't want us to be. All right, lastly, we've got some ramp stuff. Of course, we got Soul Ring. We gotta put in Soul Ring. And then there's Magnifying Glass. Again, not the best, but it does let you pay for and tap it to investigate. It's just another thing that you can do in a pinch. They went this way, and again, don't get mad at me for this isn't as strictly as good as Rampant Growth, whatever, I don't care. Search for basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then you investigate. It's great value in this deck. Weirding Wood, again. It's not as good as some other cards, but it enters the battlefield and investigates, and then it taps to add 2 mana of any one color. And then of course we've got KCI, Kruk Clan Ironworks. Sacrifice an artifact, add 2 to our mana pool, chuck those clues into the furnace, and just crank out mana like crazy. For our lands, we've got all the clue lands from the clue thing, because they all tap 4 to investigate. Quick mention, Havengul Laboratory taps 4 to investigate as well, and then it transforms into Havengul Mystery. It's kind of really yucky looking. But anyway, that's pretty cool. Phyrexia's Core as well, you can gain life, whatever. There's some cool things. I hope you liked this deck. I hope it made sense, and I hope that it's just something I want to build this deck so much. I gotta get a proxy for Soul, but holy cow, it's really cool. Thank you to my Patreon supporters, and please make sure you visit that TCGplayer affiliate link in the bottom description below, whatever, and make sure you come back next week for a weekly dose of magic. Cool. Okay, bye.